Aliens Volume 1, Issue 5 of 6. We are continuing the Earth War. This cover, absolutely beautiful. I love the whole spiral feeling of the hive with the two xenomorphs just hiding in the shadows with the highlighted rim light of the red and the pinks. Just a very beautiful composition. And it could be that I'm biased. And one thing that I'm going to say, that I was looking at these, I love, because these comics, the reason they're black and white is because this is back when Dark Horse was a kind of an indie comic. Like they were kind of the prototype of Image in a sense. I kind of wish that they would keep this logo where it looks. I know that the horse is their logo, but it's more high tech now. I just love how it looks like a not a rook, a knight from chess. I think that looks so cool and classy. But that's just me. Again, beautiful inward artwork. And just kind of keep this in mind. This is a foreshadowing. If you look at the head and you see what's dangling from the sternum there, keep that in mind. Print date, June 1989. Script, Mark Verheiden. Art, Mark A. Nelson. Lettering, Willie Schubert. Last issue. The Benedict has been boarded by a ship called the KO-14. Patrick Massey. We kind of went over him in the earlier books. If you guys haven't been keeping up, pause this video, go check it out, or go pick up the books. He's a sociopath that Bionational hires. They sent him after the Benedict because they don't want the government to get first rights to a new life form for weapon systems. And again, it goes back to human hubris because remember last issue, Bionational thinks they're the bee's knees because even though they're still having Massey going out and collecting more specimens, they got a queen. Salvaje and his religious zealots busted in, got themselves infected, and now spread across planet Earth. So this picks up with the Benedict being invaded. This is Newt. For one brief moment, I'd found love, one of Hicks's grunts, a Marine named Butler. What is it about life that as soon as you find something good, it's taken away from you? I could feel the panic rising in my chest, choking, claustrophobic. My first instinct was to hide, just like Acheron, just like Earth. That's what the enemy depends on. Human, alien, they rely on that fear to endure. And so I love how, in terms of symbolism, we see her in the corner with the blanket, which very remnant to how Ripley first found her on Acheron when she went through the tunnels and she pushed up against that ventilation wall or whatever it was. And the way, just like how a frightened child pulls the blanket up close, and then the shadows in the back very much looking like a cell. And she says, no. It explained the resilience of creatures like the alien. They don't understand fear. They don't understand anything beyond their own existence. I knew I'd have to become like them to survive. So even though we see the, what's the word? I can't remember, but sorry, I haven't had enough coffee today. We see the frightened little girl. We see Newt. But then we see that the woman she's become, she says no, tears off the ventilation shaft, and still using the memory from Acheron, she uses the vents to move around the Benedict. So a lot of to say without saying it within these panels. I love stuff like that. Now, I didn't spoil this last issue, so if you don't want spoilers, again, pause this. Stevens was the betrayer. Stevens was the one in command of the Benedict. Hicks was his second in command. Now, remember, Hicks was trying to load plasma rifles onto the Benedict. And Stevens said, those are unreliable and it can cause so much trouble, blah, blah, blah. We're here to pick up specimens, not pieces. You come to find out that his true intention was he didn't want Hicks's Marines to have any type of self-defense. So they had more like traditional type projectiles. Stevens, before letting Massey board, took all the firing pins out of the Marines' guns. So when they go to arm themselves, nothing, nada. This was easier than I'd hoped. Did you double check the inboard roster? Stevens aced Benson and Meeker and dumped the bodies before we docked. Now remember, I think it was issue 2, where we talked about there was some sort of sabotage on the ship and we saw someone explode. Stevens. The rest of the complement is accounted for. And then Hicks rescued Newt, and she came up extra on the head count when Stevens found out. So they don't know anything about her. No wonder Stevens chewed my ass over packing plasma rifles. He was afraid we'd use them against you. I still can't figure out where the corporation found the balls to intercept a government ship on a classified mission. I think you'll find the corporation capable of almost anything. Now, notice, they're saying the corporation. And we go back, because at this point in time, 1988, we only have aliens, or alien and aliens. And this was before the Aliens Director Edition, where we actually see that the name of the company on Acheron is called Weyland-Yutani. In the original cut, none of that was in there. So no one knew who the company was. And you remember Parker in the first film bitching about the bonus situation, and Dallas says, "Well, why don't you take it up with the company?" And Parker says, "Take it up with the company. May as well be talking to God." And then Dallas says, same thing. So it was very ambiguous in this point from the 70s to the late 80s. So I think the way that this works chronologically is Bionational, I think, was the name that was supposed to be revealed as the corporation, hence why they're using the corporation. If you go on now after the reprints and all the horrific sequels that we've gotten since then, which I will give Alien Romulus a pass. Moving on. When you look up Bionational now, it'll say it was a competitor of Weyland-Yutani. I just want to keep that in mind in terms of posterity of these comics. We still believe in free enterprise, capitalism. And I'm afraid your government wants to keep the life form for itself. My government? You make it sound like the corporation's an independent state. Jesus, those things destroyed Acheron. Think what they could do on Earth. And so look at how when we see the illumination of the LEDs or phosphorus lights or whatever in the cargo hold. But then we get this deep shadow of Massey. We're breeding them. So now what he does is he's taking Hicks's Marines down to the alien homeworld. You've already got the things on Earth. Why not just kill us and be done with it? Oh, you're going to die. Rest assured of that. But I'm sure you understand the call of science. We're charged with investigating the homeworld before returning to Earth. And then all the Marines very shaken up because this is not what they signed up for. Never know what you might find. If their homeworld follows traditional patterns, there's probably some sort of ecological balance. Predator, prey, like Earth, like you and me. The alien is a remarkable life form, but it may not be the dominant species on its homeworld. I remember I was talking about the hubris, call the science, etc., so forth. Here, a corporation like Bionational succeeds by staying one step in front of the competition. In 5 years, the alien will be obsolete, passé. We'll need to find newer, superior biological weapons. We're fishing. Your Marines are bait. Ugh. And I don't know about y'all, but when I'm reading this and just thinking of all this stuff, I mean, I don't like to get too into stuff if y'all get what I'm talking about. But think about all the parallels of now echoed in the story. I mean, it's a little on the nose, but it's enough that it services the story in terms of corporate greed, etc., so forth. And it just makes it awesome. And at the center of it all, it's the alien that makes everyone their focus point. One thing that I wanted to bring up with this issue too. They land and we see the hive. Now, look at the formation. I want to stress the importance of that because I was watching on YouTube, I can't remember the channel or else I'd reference it, but they were talking about the creation of Alien and how Dan O'Bannon and Giger, I can't remember everybody, but all of the one that was involved working to finally get the idea. In the first renditions, they wanted to do kind of like the temple fill. And so Giger actually came up, or Geiger, however you guys want to pronounce it, came up with this concept of the hive to look like this instead of the derelict that we got. But Fox said there had been too much money to construct everything that they needed. So when Kane goes down into the pit, parts of the wall were used for the interior chambers. They couldn't film the actual hive. So I really flipping appreciate that Dark Horse did their homework. And I don't know if Fox gave them concepts from Alien or whatnot, but I appreciate that we come to this homeworld and we see what a hive on another planet would look like. And I just think that's a nice little cherry on top for us alien geeks. And then the next part, Newt moving through the Benedict to try to save Hicks from Bionational's goons, essentially. I knew I'd have to kill him. The ducks wormed through the ship, separated by an intricate network of automatic interior doors. The aliens used similar tunnels to attack us on Acheron. I couldn't imagine Stevens actually jettisoning the loaders. He was too prudent for that. The intruders were calm, confident they were in complete control. Now, one thing that gets murky. Here, she says, the intruders were calm, confident that they were in complete control. Despite Ripley's warnings, Hicks and his Marines made a similar mistake on Acheron. Now, the reason I point that out very explicitly is here Newt straight up says it. In the book, because it's not Ripley, it's an android that they come across, by the way. It's just interesting to see how the book or the comics followed the actual sequel, as where they had to scramble after Alien 3 came out to redo everything. And another thing that I love, and this is why I wish this would have been the sequel, is because with Alien 3, yeah, the monastery idea was kind of cool, but it was all dark tunnels. It's like Alien. It was like a haunted house. These comics, we're getting to see other planets. And we're actually getting to see more tech of what like Bionational or Weyland-Yutani and the U.S. Marine Corps would use in this time period. So they have flyers watching Hicks's grunts. Does this make any sense to you? Bionational, the government, we're all supposed to be on the same side. There's no sides anymore, just money, and we're expendable. And they force them to approach the hive. Now, keep this in mind. It says, hold it. Are you crazy? Back off. And so they come across the alien eggs. There's something inside, something moving, but it's not attacking. Why are we still alive? Something's wrong. Something's wrong with this entire mission. Keep that in mind. However, we do find that there is another species on this planet. We don't know if it was like an ecological balance, like Massey said, but they're like flying. They look sort of like prototype dragon pterodactyls. And they start to attack the humans that are watching the Marines. They end up in the hive the same way. And of course, one of them gets attacked. And Cacophony just goes mad. And then Newt finally faces Massey. Well, we seem to have missed one. What are you? Ship's mascot. Release Hicks now. And look, we get a moment of vulnerability on our face. That's the word I was looking for earlier. The alien would have attacked. What was wrong with me? Why couldn't I fire? I said, release him. You're very pretty. You can't be one of these hard-ass Marines. I'll bet you've never fired one of those. Shoot him, Newt. Don't come any closer. You wouldn't want to kill me, honey. How could you live with yourself? murdering another human being. It wasn't fair. I wanted to be just like them. Massey catches the opening. Now remember, I think it was either issue 1 or 2 where red and green, I'm just going to refer to them that way. I think it's Oslo and Horner, I think are their names. But anyway, they're talking about Massey's psychological profile. They find out that he's a sociopath, and basically he's married as cover as a kid. Kid finds classified information about the Xenomorph, and rather than let Bionational come in and do a hitman or a cleaner, as they call him, he does it himself. And so while he's attacking Newt, I don't need weapons. I could open your throat with my fingers, feel the blood spray down my arms, but you're not worth the effort. You're nothing. A distraction. And then look at the way he's that crazy smile. You remind me of my wife. But finally, Newt is able to get the upper hand, and we finally see a change in her from scared girl to someone coming in to their own. But what happens with Massey? There's a surprise, which leaves the grunts on the alien homeworld. So basically, at this point, Hicks and Newt have to take a second lander down to save them, kind of like the end of Aliens. Butler comes in. He goes, we're going to go back into the hive to try to see if there's anyone else alive. He goes, you're wasting your time. Forget them. They were dead before the mission began. Now, keep in mind, we talked about how the grunts walked up to those eggs and they said, why are we still alive? Butler here says, I can't explain it. We have to go back. I love you, Newt. And so they go in and start ripping through the xenomorphs. And this, I'm going to spoil this part so you guys can understand, so I'm not just leaving you without answers. An alien gets a hold of Butler. And we see that they tear the alien apart. We see her screaming. And we see the Marine say, Jesus, he's still alive. Then, please. Now look at the guts. Look like someone we know? Look kind of like Bishop or David, yeah? Come to find out that the entire platoon are androids. Newt fell in love with an artificial person. And the way she's screaming, Hicks says, Newt, stop it. Damn it, Newt, I tried to keep you away from him, from all of them. How do you think they went back for those bastards in the hive? Their principal function is to preserve life. Human life. And now look, because they went back in, they're being torn apart. They were engineered just for this mission, spent their whole lives locked inside the Marine compound, waiting for this moment. They're cost efficient and expendable. You, me, Stevens, we were the only humans on board. There were interaction problems with earlier models. Humans just didn't like them. So these prototypes were designed to socialize. They eat like us, talk like us. Damn programmers were almost too clever. The androids developed sensitivities. There were questions about their emotional stability, how they react to the truth. So he treated them as equals, played along with the deception. And so what I think really hits me at the core of these books, yes, I love the action. Yes, I love the way that the story unfolds. But in terms of like belief, if you really break down the 5 issues that we've gone over so far, Salva Hayes, over-the-top religious zealotry, Oslo treating science as his religion, and then of course the whole life cycle of the alien, death, birth. And then Hicks saying here, we treated them as equals. We played into the deception. So there's this whole kind of like inverted Christianity feel to the book, especially the guy that gets tortured and the way he's laid out on the operating table. It's just a really interesting take. And it doesn't stop there, guys. There's a whole lot of little symbols. But this book is important because of this page right here. Hicks and Newt get to the home planet. They don't think they're going to be able to take off because the aliens overwhelm the dropship. But when they think all is lost, they hear a bunch of laser fire, for lack of a better term. And when they open it, you go, what in the? That's impossible. Nothing can stop those things. Shh, stopped. Then he says, nothing can stop those things. At least nothing human. Now, look at the face. I'll give you a moment. Why is this important? This issue, again, this is 1988, before Alien 3, before Prometheus, before Covenant. This is the space jockey alien race. And we get more of him, and he becomes a very important part of the Earth War, leading into all the way through the final 4 issues, the Earth War, leading into genocide. That's how important this character becomes. And this is his first appearance in the comics. So rather talking about the engineers and the whole Christ-like situation with Prometheus, this explains the space jockey and what happens. So guys, issue 5 is a very important part of the Earth War. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it's like to get your action figures and comics and pick up this issue, as well as support your local library or bookstores and grab the novelizations by Steve Perry. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Xenomorph bell next subscribe, that way as I can upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. Speaking of, if you enjoy what I do and you'd like to help support the channel, I have also left a PayPal tip jar link down in the description. And if not, I still appreciate you stopping by and checking out the video. Either way, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.